Escape the debt trap. 5 things the rich buy during a recession. Consumer debt recently hit a new record high of $15.8 trillion. That's shocking, but what's even more worrying is nobody ever warned us about this. Talking about money is extremely frowned upon, but with the cost of living rising and energy prices soaring, it's more important than ever. However, maybe they want us to keep buying things we don't need with money. Hello, welcome to our channel. If you haven't already subscribed to the channel, please do so right away. This is a video on how to pick the best 5 purchases during a crash in order for you to grow your wealth. Be aware of the debt trap. Many people are still calling our current system capitalism, but in reality, what has been happening is just creditism. This stems back to 1971 when President Nixon decided to take the USA off the gold standard. Before this point, you could actually walk into any bank and demand gold for your dollars in a value of $35 per ounce to be exact. However, now banks don't have to hold these gold reserves, which allows them much more freedom to issue loans and create money from. This has led to credit becoming the key driver of economic growth, meaning if credit slows down, the system will go into crisis. And that's what we're seeing starting to happen now. Now that you're aware of this debt trap, this is how you can escape it. There are 2 different ways of thinking when it comes to buying things. The first is the want to be rich. You've probably seen these people flexing their design, their clothes, and their flashy cars on Instagram. Now there's nothing wrong with buying a few nice things. However, it becomes an issue when your purchases are fueled by the need to impress others. This need to look rich makes people spend money they don't have, resulting in them buried in a mountain of debt that they'll never escape from. At this point, they don't own this stuff. Their expensive debt repayments mean their stuff owns them. The second is the really rich. We mainly focus on buying things that make us money, and we use credit wisely to build our wealth. This results in the things we own actually giving us freedom rather than chain us to jobs we hate. This way of thinking becomes even more important during a crash, as every penny is even more valuable. So the big question is, what are the really rich buying? Purchase number 1. Number 1 is reliable stocks. I'll tell you why I'm outside the Apple store in just a moment. Investing in stocks has never been easier, and with the right portfolio, you can really take advantage of a stock market crash and build your wealth in the early days. Let's look at this scenario. John, our favorite imaginary millionaire, in the early days of running his businesses, was required to attend monthly meetings with his landlord. In one particular meeting, he realized that the secretary had a new computer, which in itself wouldn't have been that unusual. However, this computer was an all-in-one unit in shocking blue, and it really stood out, so he had to ask her about it. It turns out that the computer was an Apple iMac. This was the first time John had ever seen an Apple product. Looking back, he should have invested in Apple stock in the early 2000s when he first saw the computer, but he was busy running the business and cash flow was tight. Fast forward around 7 years and he watched Steve Jobs charismatically announce the iPhone. At that point, he knew he had to own one. He also knew that if he felt this way, then many others would do as well. So he bought an iPhone straight away and also the company stock. John wasn't going to let this slip through his fingers a second time after this. We were hit with the 2008 recession. There, Apple continually innovated by releasing first the MacBook Air and then the iPad. They managed to stay pretty recession-proof as demand for their products only increased. There are 3 different types of reliable stocks. First, dividend players such as Starbucks and Pepsi. These pay you a percentage of passive income every quarter, regardless of the stock price. Secondly, we have core sector stocks such as healthcare, utilities, and consumer goods. They should be relatively recession-proof and always in demand. Thirdly, we have my favorite of all time, index funds, which are basically baskets full of stocks, allowing you to own a piece of all of them with one simple investment. Historically, this has been a very safe way to invest. Purchase number 2. Number 2 is buy real estate because it's one of the fastest ways to grow your net worth. During the dot-com boom, people were invested heavily and struck pretty big with a few stocks during times like these. It feels like you just can't go wrong. However, everyone was noticing some of the early signs of a bubble forming, such as everyone believing the hype that the internet would change everything. This, of course, eventually happened, but not before effectively destroyed hundreds of dot-com companies that had poor business models. We remember Amazon having a huge drop in value. It's a bit like what we're seeing with Web3 and metaverse stocks. Luckily, a lot of people noticed this just before the bubble burst and took their profits and then diversified into commercial real estate. The beauty of real estate is that you can leverage your money with mortgages, meaning you can take control of property worth hundreds of thousands of dollars with a much smaller deposit and then pay back the interest on the loan with the money you're receiving in rental income. And of course, make some profit on the side. We love the smaller commercial buildings because you can split them up and read them to smaller businesses, just like an HMO. We also love that you can get into real estate with little to no money with something called deal sourcing, as there are always investors looking for a good deal. So if you can find one, investors will take it off your hands and pay your premium. Do this enough times and you'll have enough deposit faster than you can say, Purchase number 3. Number 3 is buying precious metals. I'm talking pure gold and silver. Not this time. The reason this isn't a great investment is because you've got the added labor and the reselling costs, meaning the price isn't based on the actual value of a precious metal. Robert Kiyosaki, author of the popular book Rich Dad, Poor Dad, is a huge supporter of buying gold and silver. He calls it God's money. Robert is uneasy about the current situation in the financial markets. I mean, it wasn't long ago that the US stock exchanges were out there, and it was reported that half of the new millionaires only became so because of the constant growth of the market. However, he has believed for some time now the growth of stocks has been mostly funded by debt. Kiyosaki calls his fortune fake, therefore he thinks they will be destroyed by the next financial crisis just as easily as they were created. Not that I believe all of this, however, precious metal is certainly a good store of value. There's a few different ways to buy precious metals. The first is to actually buy the physical commodity such as gold, and the second is to simply purchase a gold ETF on your favorite stock app. Personally, I would always buy physical gold because it's real, and you can store it in a vault ready to turn back into cash at a drop of a hat. The issue with gold ETFs is they might not have enough gold to serve as a mass withdrawal, and we always feel more comfortable with the asset in my control. The second is to simply purchase a gold ETF on your favorite stock app. Purchase number 4. Number 4 is buying blue chip crypto. It's no secret that Bitcoin has been the best performing asset for the last decade, and I'm sure I also don't need to remind you about the state of the market at the moment. It's a bloodbath, which could be the perfect time to snap up some amazing deals. We remember the first time I heard about Bitcoin. It was on a TV interview and honestly thought it was some kind of scam. Even the guy that was being interviewed didn't seem to be able to articulate what Bitcoin was really about. This really annoys us as this first negative impression had a real impact on people's attitudes towards crypto for years. Fast forward to 2020 and the crypto reared its head once again. After coming out of a quite stagnant period known as the crypto winter, everyone was still very skeptical. However, you can dip your toe in the water, but this doesn't happen buying lots of different altcoins, especially in market crashes, as many of them just won't recover. However, the blue chip ones, we're talking Bitcoin and Ethereum, are definitely more long-term play. Purchase number 5. Number 5 is buying things for a side hustle. There's lots of different options here, such as the online route or something more physical in person depending on your skill set. This is the absolute way to get ahead of everybody else during a crash, as cash is king. And the more money you're generating, the more money you can invest. You just need a laptop and an internet connection. The best part of all, if it was just started as a side hustle, your side hustle doesn't have to make $100,000 a month, although that would be nice. However, even an extra $100 generated is a chunk of cash you wouldn't have had before. So just be on the lookout for that you can buy that you can use to make a solid return on investment. So the secret to actually becoming rich in a crash is to firstly escape the debt trap society has set for you by changing the way you think about money. Secondly, consider the return on investment of every item you buy and maximize this wherever possible. And thirdly, avoid high levels of stress, as this causes you to act irrationally during a crash. Make sure to subscribe if you want more tips on how to grow your wealth. We hope to see you in our next episodes. Till then, goodbye and take care.